The Office's Pam Beesly was a rather quiet and unassuming person, but she had a surprisingly chaotic personal journey over the course of the show's run. While she did make some strides,
look out, world, because old Pammy is getting what she wants. And don't call me Pammy.
the show never seemed to really want to let her grow and change in a lasting way. So let's take a closer look at Pam's journey of confidence to see what worked, where things went wrong, and what the true takeaways from her story are.
You're the best.
I kind of am. It's crazy.
When we meet Pam, she's not only not living her dream, she hardly even allows herself to dream of anything more. Though we do get inklings that this isn't how she wants her life to be forever, she also doesn't seem sure of exactly what she does want or how to go after it.
I don't think it would be the worst thing if they let me go, because then I don't think it's many little girls' dream to be a receptionist.
She's a kind, caring, and thoughtful person, which allows her to get along with most anyone. But her willingness to go with the flow to make other people happy is one of her defining traits, and has led her to end up feeling very stuck in a life that she doesn't even really want. She's still with her overbearing high school boyfriend, even though he doesn't treat her well.
And when I went to the bathroom, the game ended and they forgot about me.
Okay, that's a joke.
No, they had to come back for me.
Wait, not Roy. Say it's not your fiance.
She's working a job where she's expected to take care of so much for everyone while constantly being underappreciated.
It's like sometimes some of you act like I don't even exist.
Not to mention constantly put down.
She's prettier than you, though.
That's a very rude thing to say, Kevin.
It can be very difficult to pull yourself out of patterns you've been stuck in for a long time, especially when everyone else around you seems more than happy to keep you right where you are.
Seemed very important to you earlier that you needed to stay and...
Do my job?
No, your job is being my friend, Pam.
Because so much of Pam's own personal stagnancy has been the result of doing things for others, or putting her needs aside to appease other people in her life, she often gets a lot of pushback when she tries to change in any real way. And as she's a rather quiet, easygoing person in a sea of strong personalities, people often project things onto her. Because she has a hard time standing up for herself, she often doesn't react to these things in the moment, which means people just assume even more that what they think is true, which then leads to these ideas being perpetuated, pulling Pam even deeper into the cycle. While she does begin the show feeling like she's stuck in quicksand, she does slowly begin trying to pull herself out. As Pam begins to open herself up to the possibilities of being someone other than just Pam, the receptionist and Roy's fiancé, we get to see the sparks of not only a more exciting person, but one that is herself more excited for life. She slowly begins to accept that she is allowed to want more out of life, and that just because it doesn't always align with what's best for everyone else doesn't automatically make it wrong. Choosing not to marry Roy, which happens in between seasons and so is just mentioned in a talking head, is a really big moment for Pam.
Yeah, I didn't go through with the wedding. I got cold feet a few days before, and I can't really explain it. I just had to get out of that relationship.
She spent so much of her life just going with the flow, doing whatever seems like it'll make everyone else happy. So to stand up for what she wants in such a big way, to stop her wedding just days before, when she would have likely been surrounded by pressure to keep going because things are already in motion, is a big and underappreciated moment of growth for her. Pam begins to take a more genuine look at her own interests and what she enjoys doing, including turning her focus back on her art.
I'm doing well. I have my own apartment, and I'm taking art classes.
This isn't an easy road where one day she just has an epiphany that her life should be different and then runs after it. Instead, it's, like it is for so many of us, a continual up and down, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back growth process. Even in her excitement for new possibilities, she's still weighed down by her fear of stepping outside of the box she's been in for so long.
It's just that the weekends aren't good because,
there are always a million reasons not to do something.
And her attempts aren't always successful. Sometimes she puts herself out there only to have it flop, which can make it even harder to go for things the next time. It took a lot of courage to finally not only give herself the time and space to create art again, but also to show it. And so it's no surprise that she was incredibly deflated when almost no one she invited showed up to support her. Though things don't always go her way, she still finds that the more she forces herself to stand up for herself, the more forward momentum she has, even when things don't work out sometimes. And she finds herself more willing and able to speak the truth to people around her, even when she knows it could cause problems or make someone unhappy.
Michael, you couldn't even do that. Maybe I should be your boss. Why didn't any of you come to my art show? I invited all of you. That really sucked.
But even when she did make progress, Pam's confidence journey never seemed to get to stay on an upward trajectory for too long. Over time, Pam began to put herself out there more and more and try big things even though they were scary at first. And while this led to some big wins, it also often ended up being where her confidence began to dive.
But maybe one day.
I hope so. I still need, my breakthrough or whatever.
The big things she tries, like art school or becoming a salesperson, that take her too far out of her set comfort zone, actually end up having the opposite effect, causing her to flee and revert back into the safe old Pam. Whenever things get too difficult or there's too much pressure, she climbs back into that same old box she had worked so hard to climb out of. This isn't totally unrealistic. Plenty of people make a big move to try something new, only to realize they might have pushed themselves a bit too far too fast. But this does over time become a problem for Pam because it turns into a continual pattern of backsliding. Instead of hitting a wall and then deciding to try a new direction or related but different option, she pretty much always makes the choice to turn right back around to what she was doing before. The thing that might have made her unhappy but was comfortable in a way, because at least that kind of misery was one that she understood and that wouldn't push her too much. She finally goes to art school, but then drops out because it's too challenging. Tired of being just a receptionist, she moves into a sales position. She finds that the role isn't fulfilling and isn't something that she's particularly good at. But instead of actually stopping to take stock of her life and what she actually wants to do with it, she takes the first opportunity she finds to essentially revert back into her old role.
Is one of you the office administrator?
I am. I'm the office administrator.
Though at least now with a new title and the feeling of a bit more prestige. While receding back into her comfort zone may feel safe at first, it never really leads to her feeling happier.
I don't want to fail again.
You didn't fail.
Well, I'm not an artist, and I'm not a salesman. So what would you call it?
There's nothing wrong with trying new things and failing, or trying new things and deciding that you don't like them and you want to go back to what you were doing before. But Pam always seems to roll back any forward momentum she gets. Like she's too afraid to ever really stick a big leap and truly have her life change in a big way. After keeping her dreams caged for so long, it's like she's afraid to really let them out and see what her life could become, because that would require her to grapple with her uneasiness with the unknown. While Pam did get to have some big moments of going after what she wanted, the show always returned her to her earlier nature of only getting pulled into big things for others. The truth is, it can be hard to believe in yourself when it seems like no one else believes in you, and to keep going after your dreams when no one but you seems to understand them.
Real art takes courage, okay, and honesty.
Well, those aren't Pam's strong points.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this is motel art.
The only person that's really consistently got her back and seems to believe in her is Michael, and he's, well, Michael. Jim feigns being supportive, but only really seems to believe in her in the most passive of ways, and is only really happy about her going for what she wants when it won't get in the way of what he wants. He is super into her when she's unobtainable.
Pam's favorite flavor of yogurt, which is mixed berry.
But once they're actually together and the chase is over, he's much less attentive and observant. And as much as he hated on Roy for not appreciating her in the beginning, he goes on to behave the same way.
I don't know what I was so worried about. I have the best wife in the world.
I still can't believe he didn't tell me.
Once she has kids, Pam feels like she's back on that set track of life, where things just happen to her and she has to go along with it because that's just how things are. And that's not an unrealistic idea. Having children takes up so much of your time and energy. And many parents feel that they have to put their own lives on hold for the sake of their kids, particularly mothers who usually shoulder most of the responsibility for child rearing even when both parents work. In a time of immense stress, when Jim has essentially abandoned her to go live out his dreams, she gets into a situationship with Brian, one of the operators working on the Dunder Mifflin documentary.
What am I doing wrong, Brian?
Nothing. You're doing the best you can.
Ryan.
Give her a minute.
Just as she began to have her flirtation with Jim when she felt like she was an afterthought to Roy, Brian momentarily fills the void in her life left by Jim. Once she realizes that he has real feelings for her, she turns him down, which makes sense since she is married. But she doesn't really take this whole situation as a sign that maybe she should reassess her current life and think about if she might be happier going down a different path. In the same way that her kiss with Jim made her totally rethink her relationship with Roy.
I'm afraid you're gonna resent me, and I'm afraid that this is not enough for you, and I'm afraid that I'm not enough for you.
Pam ends the show following Jim's dream, just kind of assuming she'll figure out where she fits into the equation and what she really wants along the way.
I just thought if I could get us an offer, then there wouldn't be anything standing in our way, and I could come to you with this big Jim gesture.
This isn't a total negative, of course. It's important for couples to be able to work through issues and find compromises that work for both parties. But this isn't really a compromise. It's Jim getting everything he wants, while Pam is back to just going with the flow. But importantly, going back to square one doesn't mean being stuck there forever. She's found her confidence more than once, so there's no reason to believe she can't do it again. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to make big sweeping changes in your life all of the time, or just having smaller dreams of a simple life. Pam's issue is that she falls back into being so passive that she risks becoming an observer rather than an active participant in her own life. At the end, we see how watching her life play out on screen, especially those early days, makes it clear to her what kinds of problems her lack of confidence and self-belief caused her.
After a few episodes, it was too painful. I kept wanting to scream at Pam. It took me so long to do so many important things.
So armed with that knowledge and years more life experience, hopefully the next time around she has a much easier time convincing herself to actually take herself into consideration and not put her own needs last behind everyone else's. Just because Pam's confidence journey isn't a perfect upward trajectory doesn't make it unrealistic. If anything, it makes it more relatable to a lot of people. As with any long-running show, there's always a question of how much character backsliding is based on the writers actually feeling like it makes sense for the character, and how much is just based on trying to Flanderize them to get back to the show's glory days. But much of Pam's story does reflect a version of reality that many face, especially women who were raised to put everyone else's happiness before their own. So the biggest takeaway we can pull from Pam's story is just to check in with ourselves and make sure that we're making choices based on what we actually want, and what's best for us too. Instead of always only thinking about everyone else, everyone deserves to believe in themselves, and to feel free to follow their dreams, big or small.
If someone out there saw this and she said to herself, love yourself, conquer your fears, just go after what you want.
That's the take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.